Okay, so welcome back. I made this a separate video because I totally didn't screw anything up when I tried to make another video. Promise. So what we're going to be looking at here is going to be the effect of a positive labor supply shock when labor demand is perfectly elastic. So perfectly elastic demand means a horizontal line. A relatively elastic demand is going to be a pretty shallow labor demand curve. And then a more inelastic demand is going to be a relatively steep labor demand curve. So we're going to look at the case where it's perfectly elastic, and we're going to look at a positive labor supply shock. So, step one, positive labor supply shock. So labor supply is going to shift out, or up. So it does this. Again. Red marker brought to you by Mom. Thanks, Mom. So labor supply is going to increase from LTS to LTS prime. Draw a dotted line down again. So what we're going to see is our initial optimal labor amount has increased from L star to L prime, meaning output, in this case, it's a positive labor supply shock, so output's going to increase. It's going to increase from Y star up to Y prime, like this. And I draw the dotted line over, and then up. And I can find that what happens in this case is I draw a dotted line production function, and there's no shift in it. There's no shift because, again, it's a labor supply shock. There's no change to technology. So if there's no change in technology, well, we just move to the same point on the original curve, like I said before, because this is in terms of Y and L. So if L changes, we're moving to a new point on the existing graph. If K or A were to change, we'd be moving this graph up or down. But because it's defined in terms of L in this graph, we're staying on the same point. So this is where we are. Draw this dotted line over. Meaning our aggregate supply curve is going to shift out to AS prime. The price level is going to drop from P to T prime. Now in this case, we want to summarize. Labor is going to increase Wages remain unchanged. Why? Because labor demand is perfectly elastic. But output's still going to increase. Prices are going to fall. Like this. So that's if it's a perfectly elastic labor demand when there's a labor supply shock that takes place. I'm going to show you one more shock, so I lied. I'm doing 4 shocks total. 1 second.